she wanted to be a star, I wanted her to be a star.
Since I'm very little, my dream is to be part of the show business all my life.
Celine Dion exhibited this enormous amount of passion since she was a little girl.
She's 100% passion. Just listen to the depth of those notes.
You need to be relentless in your pursuit to become successful.
Perseverance involves desire and want and must have.
It's been my passion since I was very young. It's always been my dream.
Like all young singers, Celine had the dream of becoming a star. And in time, because of her determination and extraordinary hard work, she went even further to become an international star.
I believe passion is really created by what our destiny is in life, which of course is dictated by the higher power.
I think passion leads art. An artist has something that they have to say. It's some deep part of you that has to speak, and it'll speak no matter what.
I have a lot of passion because when you're a kid growing up in New York City, it's easy to get into trouble. You can either easily wind up in jail or you can wind up in one of those halfway homes for boys, but I just always stayed creative and I always believed in what I was doing, and I always knew that I had the talent to move beyond doing it just as a hobby, but doing it for a living and making money for it.
I believe that if you're fortunate enough to have the passion for something and the talent, that eventually the monetary gains will come along. But if one day the gains weren't there, I still believe that you would continue to do it because it's part of you.
Celine Dion exhibited this enormous amount of passion since she was a little girl, and and when you consider the help that she had from her husband Rene to get it moving, you know, that's really the key to her success. Besides her great talent, you know, because you can't do it without that.
You were my strength when I was weak. You were my voice when I couldn't speak. You were my eyes when I couldn't see.
When Rene met Celine for the first time, he was 38 years old and already had 23 years of experience in the business. I had the pleasure of meeting Rene when I was 15. I started a group called the Baronets with him. We were together for 12 years. So I got to know Rene, the real Rene, like very few people know him. Rene wasn't very motivated back then, and that frustrated me because I had a lot of passion for the group, and he didn't have any at all. He only thought of playing around and having fun. I resented that and grew more frustrated. It finally came to the point where I blew up at him and said to him, "Listen, you're really lazy. You're never going to succeed in life."
Since I'm very little, my dream is to be part of the show business all my life.
I'd say that music has always played a part in my life. When I was 5 years old, I sang, yes, but to give an exact age is difficult. It's been my passion since I was very young. It's always been my dream.
I was born and brought up in Newark, New Jersey. And you know, we were poor, and I lived in the projects, and it was tough. So I made up my mind very early in life that if I wanted to get out of there, I had to do something that would be spectacular.
I could not have been more than 7 or 8 years old, and I began going to theater. My mother took me to the theater once a month to see some great performance on Broadway. And I would leave and I would know every song in the show, and they thought there was something wrong with me.
It started out when my mother bought me a piano, and I realized that I was very good at it.
And at the age of 9, I picked out a melody on the piano, and my mother said, "My boy's a musician."
Sam, my mother said to my father, "Sam, we got trouble. This is a very bright child, but I don't know if we can afford a piano." So I got a guitar.
It started out really early. I was a 5-year-old child when I discovered how happy it made me to sing and love music. I was really, basically, even if you're in some place and you're around a family that doesn't really understand what you're thinking and what you're doing, you wish everybody would understand and help you travel around with that passion of yours. And I did. I started off with the Academy for 10 years. I studied piano and music and singing and dancing and all of these things that would help me gather some knowledge and some comfort.
I grew up playing keyboards and bass guitar, and I also grew up writing music. I was writing songs at a very young age.
I started when I was 7 years old. I was in Annie Get Your Gun on Broadway, actually. So I've been in show business really all my life, but I started writing songs when I was about 17 years old. I'd gone to a high school in New York, Brooklyn, New York, called Madison High School. And Madison High School had such writers as Carole King, was 5 years behind me, but I knew Carole King, and Barry Immerman, which is Barry Mann, who wrote You Lost Our Love and Feeling.
I began singing with a friend on my guitar. That was it. And I sang, and I fell more and more in love with the sound of music and the feeling of it and the excitement in my soul. This was passion.
I couldn't have been more than 10 or 12 when I realized that I really liked to sing. So by the time I was 15 or 16 years old, I had already recorded my first record. And it was a regional success. It wasn't a national success or an international success. And once I'd had a taste of it, I'd made up my mind that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, or at least try to do it.
In New York, for VJ Records, I produced a group from Montreal called the Baronets, Renee Angelique, Pierre Labelle, and John Bond. And this was a new kind of group, even though they were very Beatles-driven, but a new kind of group. And they worked with Renee Angelique, who later married and managed Celine Dion, learned a lot from that experience because that experience had a big orchestra. You learned the arrangements, you learned the different kind of songs, the way the musicians played. It wasn't just like putting the guitar on first and the drums. This was a full-out day. And how quickly, if the key wasn't right, we could change the key. If someone was not getting the trumpet parts right, and Renee Angelique, as well as John and Pierre, saw the professionalism and the difference suddenly of coming to the great city of New York of what can be done. And Renee Angelique used that years later with Celine Dion.
Basically, at first, you don't do it for it to sell. You do it because you're inspired and animated by this passion.
Passion means I would do this if I was paid to do it or not paid to do it. That's what passion is. That, to me, is what passion is. And you gotta love while you're doing it, and not love yourself, but love doing it, and so passionate that if you could change one person's life, the way I think philosophically, for the better, then you've succeeded in life.
To some people, success is making a lot of money and driving exotic cars and living in mansions. And to other people, success is doing what you love most and being paid to do it. And it's not the amount of money that you get that makes you do it. If you have a passion for what you're doing, if you're a singer and your passion is to perform, any size audience is fine for you.
My passion was music. It wasn't necessarily to perform. It was the music. And the music was broad-stroked. It was everywhere. It was in jazz. It was in rock and roll. It was R&B. It was folk. No matter what it was, I constantly tested myself with the assignment of the music.
Celine is a very passionate woman. This passion, her love of singing, came from the theatrical milieu she was born into. She was the 14th child in a family that sang, danced, and played instruments. The first sounds she ever heard were musical notes. Don't think Celine went into her career for the money, for the glory, or any of that. She has a passion that artists have. You hear it in Edith Piaf. You see it in Liza Minnelli and Charles Aznavour. He was one of the artists who had to suffer the most to succeed in his career. He was told he was too small, that he wasn't good looking, that he sang badly, that his songs were only so-so, but he had a passion and a very strong determination. There are people who are determined, who push themselves, who are inhabited by a certain energy. I think those who are fortunate enough to have that kind of energy surround themselves with others who are like them.
It's necessary to have a good team because I may be alone out on stage with my musicians, but there are a lot of people behind me who work with me, who are just as important as me. When you're surrounded by good people, you keep focused on your goal and advance a lot.
René was already then, deep down, a boss, a leader of men. And me, I didn't like to give in. When big decisions had to be made, there was always friction between René and I. The final decision was made by whoever came up with the best argument. When I look at the Capitol Records building, it makes me think of one fabulous group, the Beatles. Talk about passionate guys. These guys, they made it because they worked so hard during the 5 years they played in Germany. They played in clubs that were real dives, full of smoke and so noisy the audience was not even listening. You have to be determined, and you have to believe in yourself. That's what the Beatles were like, and that's the reason they became such a success. As much as we love the Beatles themselves, we also love their manager, Brian Epstein. We followed the group's career and we observed the strategy he used, which was superb. René was very influenced by Brian Epstein's work methods. Colonel Parker, who managed Elvis Presley, also had a lot of influence on the Baronet, because he too was a great strategist. He was a guy who had a real sense of the business and marketing, which was quite out of the ordinary.
Colonel Tom Parker would put Elvis into venues that were too small for the amount of people that wanted to see him, but he knew that these venues would be sold out, that people were clamoring for tickets, that he knew this, but he also knew that the next time he could put him into a bigger and bigger venue and that people would fill the place.
This strategy influenced Renee and I enormously. I had started working as a manager and producer even before I quit the group. So then, when we broke up in 1970, Renee also went into management and production. René's early attempts weren't all that successful. His first big success was Celine Dion.
I worked after school. I worked after high school, and I sang background music for greats like Burt Bacharach and Dionne Warwick, and I was doing my doo-wop and my ooh-wahs. And one day I started to talk. Obviously, you can say I talk. I talked my way into a record bonanza. So I began to write, and I began to write, and one day, a wonderful man named Snuffy Garrett was listening to one of my songs, and he said, "Oh, perfect for Sonny and Cher. Got any more?" And I said, "Uh-huh. Sit down." And I started to play my act. And he went, I said to him, "Are you humming yet?" And he was. His foot was tapping. We were humming together. And he took 3 songs for Sonny and Cher. Well, that was the beginning, okay? Crystal Clear, Muddy Waters, When You Find Out Where You're Going, Let Me Know. That was a good one. And what was the other one? Music to My Ears.
Cherry was the beginning. And then came Big Girls Don't Cry and Walk Like a Man. And then the success just continued to roll on.
I was 16 years old, grew up in Queens, New York, St. Albans, with a guy by the name of James Todd Smith, better known as LL Cool J. And we had a demo that we made together. We shopped it around to the big record companies. Nobody wanted to give us a deal. So a friend of mine turned us on to a guy by the name of Rick Rubin, who was an NYU DJ at the time. And Rick liked the project. He said, let my partner Russell hear it. So Rick and Russell got it together. They got the financing together, and they started Def Jam Records, released the single, which was, the first song was Radio Album, and it went through the roofs. Sold 500,000 units, went gold, then it eventually went platinum. And we did a couple world tours, and the rest was history.
Then I wrote for Helen Reddy, and I had a #1 record. That was exciting. I kept saying, it's still on the chart. Look, it's another week, it's another week, it's another week. 13 weeks #1 worldwide. That was exciting. That blew my mind, actually. I said, well, how does that happen? I just figured it was the odds were with me that week. And perhaps you remember that one. It was called Ruby Red Dress, or Leave Me Alone, Why Don't You Leave Me Alone? Be kind to my dog. He's my passion today.
The second release that we had was probably one of the biggest records I've ever had in my career. That was Can't Take My Eyes Off You.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you.
The song was written by my partner Bob Gaudio and Bob Crew. And they both knew how desperately I had wanted to have some sort of a solo career and have a success with it, that they wrote the song specifically for me.
When this little lady, this little 12-year-old girl entered Renée's office with her mother, she was just 12. Well, that was vision. That was passion.
I had tears in my eyes. It was so beautiful. I had never heard anything like that.
We were lost in time. Everything I needed fell into your
De dire qu'il
There really was no way of knowing that she could be an international star. At the time, Celine wasn't ready at all. She wasn't a physical beauty, and she needed a lot of work on her vocal technique. She had to learn the craft, but he took the risk because he's a gambler, and he won. One of René's qualities is that he's stubborn and determined. There were some very difficult times when people in the business would say that Celine was this or Celine was that. They'd say he was wasting his time, that there was no future for her.
He saw something in there, and he was able, as a manager, to protect that aspect of her that was the artist. Because a lot of times, it's the child in us that's the artist. It's the child that's endlessly creative. And the child will get hurt. You know, the child will say, if you say, oh, I hate your art, I hate this, I hate that, oh, your paintings are horrible, I'm not going to come back and show it to you again. Why would I break my child's heart inside? And so it was a combination where René was able to see her and really market her properly and also protect her artistic side.
I know that Michael Jackson started off at 5 years old or 6 years old, and there were others along the line where, unfortunately, a lot of them had problems along the way, having started so early and probably missing out on a great part of their childhood, you know, their normal childhood.
You grow up learning your identity and your place in the world. Well, you just kind of have that quicker. You know, it's a very adult business, a very hard business, a very selfish business. It's a very egomaniacal business. It's driven by egos and money and doubt and worry. And I just don't think that's a business for kids.
I would never want my children to be child stars. I've seen so much tragedy with child stars. Being stars while they're children, and once they become teenagers or a little older, nobody wants to use them anymore, or their careers are over. Now, what do they do? Where do they continue their lives? How do they continue their lives?
There's 9 times out of 10 that being a child star will ruin any opportunity that you would ever want to be an adult actor. Because for some reason, the people who are in the business, who run the business, think that you cannot draw an audience as an adult. They think that whatever you had dies when you turn 18. I never understood that. I never got that. I still don't get that. That's a very weird part of the business.
When you have an artist like Celine, whose parents totally placed her within the hands of René to guide the career without interrupting or interfering, that is 100% plus. I had an artist who was, I'm not going to mention her name, but she was the granddaughter of a very, very well-known singer. We came to listen to this 12-year-old girl, and she was simply awesome, outstanding talent. We started to develop her as an artist, but we had to say, well, goodbye, because the mother really was living her life through the daughter. The mother, it turned out, was a singer herself, and but never made it. This town or this industry is loaded with people that want to take advantage of you and want to use you and really have nothing to offer. You need to find that person that has the dedication, that really believes in you. Celine, again, was very fortunate in having found René, and René having found Celine, because they truly believed in each other.
He's the only one that I will listen to without questioning anything, my eyes closed.
You're the one who saw me through it all. Love again.
Passion passion that we do carry is pretty specific. I don't think that everybody does have the same passion. Yet, I did meet some people in certain record companies, not always, I have to say, that do share the same passion for music and do embrace your dream and help you, and they push you forward, and they do really play an important role and make you who you are. It does happen, not all the time, but sometimes beyond the fact that you do meet them in the business, you do meet them outside the business. And then outside the business, you will find people that do have that passion for music, get into the business, and inject a certain amount of enthusiasm, and will help you go further.
I think the reason why artists need good management is that it is very difficult to speak for oneself. You know, going in to see promoters and telling them how great you are is a lot different than someone going in and telling that promoter how great you are.
I was the host of a radio show then on the Montreal station CKLM. One day, René Angelou phoned me and he said, listen, I have a singer that you have to hear. You have to hear her. You have to hear her.
A good manager can say, well, we're going to do this and we're not going to do that. And sometimes you say, geez, you know, that seemed pretty good what we're turning down, you know, but that there's a reason for it.
After much success in Quebec and a small success in France, René made a very important decision when he asked Celine to take a year's sabbatical, during which time they would redefine her image and her choice of songs to make her a bit more adult. When she came back, I said, this is going to be a sensation. It really was the right move at the right time. I thought they made a brilliant decision, but I could only think so far. I couldn't possibly imagine the career she has now. But with time and steady steps, she did it.
I guess the first time I got to know Celine is when, fortunately, I had René bring her to the label. A chance meeting, or fate, as we say, at a fast food type restaurant. And it's got to be fate, because I had never seen him there before, and I haven't seen him there since. But we started to discuss, and that was the year that Celine took a year's sabbatical, I believe from 17 to 18. And I don't know what his intentions were at the time, but I did say, René, have you thought of maybe branching out further? And I said, why don't you come and see me on Monday? Maybe we can discuss something, which he did.
At the time, it was very unusual to be part of a major company like Sony, because these international companies were not really interested in investing in Québécois artists. For a good reason. For them, it was easier and less expensive to make copies of already existing records of French, American, or English artists than it was to return to the studio and spend money for an album to be sold just in Quebec. René and Celine went to Ireland, and she won the Eurovision contest. Well, now that was amazing. But she'd spent her time off privately, preparing to sing in English. She took intensive courses at Berlitz, and they had some songs composed especially for her. And then they set up a meeting in northern Quebec. Actually, it was at Sainte-Marguerite du Lac-Masson with the Canadian representatives of Sony Records.
When you're promoting a new artist, usually you bring the artist across the country, okay? You visit radio stations, retailers, you have dinners. In this case, I remember saying, you know, maybe, instead of bringing Celine across the country, maybe we should bring the country to Celine, which is what we did. It was different. We brought all the key people from across Canada to the Chanticleer. The people showed up. It was so different. The Friday night, Celine performed. She never fails. She just charmed all of the people in the audience, met them all, took pictures. They all got to know Celine for the first time. And then the rest of the weekend, we never bothered those people. They stayed, they skied, it was beautiful. They left there with such a good taste in their mouth that When we did bring Celine across the country to meet them again, well, they knew who she was, they knew the treatment they got here in Montreal. It was something that probably wouldn't work all the time, but in this case, we brought the country to Celine, and it worked.
From that moment on, everything they touched turned to gold. That was the beginning of the fantastic career that she has today. She's the world's greatest singer with the world's most celebrated manager.
New York, New York.
Who hasn't dreamed of singing on Broadway? Who hasn't dreamed of New York, the fantastic city of show business, the most important city in the world? And here in New York, she signed her first contract with Sony to make a record in English, where the song Where Does My Heart Beat Now really became an international success.
When I produce a record with a singer, I want that singer to give me the greatest feeling, the most passion. The feeling is the most important thing on a song when a singer sings. The other important thing on a song is that the song should say something. In other words, it should be a good lyric and melody to begin with, or we wouldn't be doing that song.
Is it the song that makes the singer, or the singer who makes the song? Well, it's a combination of both, yeah? It's a combination of the passion of both things being this miraculous marriage. A song suddenly ignites a spirit that is in the singer, and it's the beautiful balance.
It starts with the writing first. The song has to be an incredible song. You know when you have a hit. You just feel it. It's just like Jerry West drafting Kobe Bryant out of high school. You just know. Certain people know when they have something special. When you have something special, you're well aware of it, and you just put it in a way to whereas that song can't lose, and you just ride the wave. You just feel it in the studio.
Passion for the writer happens the moment the song is created. It is not when the man buys it. It is not when the singer sings it. It is the moment that you literally sit down at now the piano or the guitar. The moment the inspiration hits, this is the passion, and you fulfill that feeling right away.
The most important thing is, what is the image of the artist? Johnny Mathis, everything he first did was shy songs. It's not for me to say. Chances are the image is important as much as Madonna with her sexual image. The image is important as the artist. And when you sit down to write a song, like an artist doing a picture, you must say, what is this image? What is the gestalt? What is the mood that they're trying to say?
Celine, because of René's experience and the team they had at Sony, had it a little bit easier than most. Because after all, there were 5 people to choose songs for her. And then René would create a good marketing strategy with the record company.
First of all, we had CBS Disc, which was a French division of the company. It was a separate division. And then what happened was that there was an opening in our artistic department, and I had to convince Vito Loprano, who was in the promotion end of our company, who was dealing with a lot of the international acts on the Columbia side, to take over this responsibility, because I had that gut feeling that he was right for the job.
Here's where Celine started to lead the real life of a star. The Four Seasons Hotel, which became René and Celine's headquarters for at least 15 years. They met with the biggest names in the business, David Foster, Tom Mottola, and all the people who played a part in the success of her career. There was good chemistry between David Foster and Diane Warren and the composers. They recorded the album in New York, Los Angeles, and London, England. But the album didn't take off as they'd hoped. And then they devised a brilliant marketing plan for her record, and they created the songs Where Does My Heart Beat Now and Love Can Move Mountains. So calls were made to CAA, the Creative Artist Agency, and they managed to convince Michael Bolton to use Celine as the opening act on his tour of the United States. For Celine, it really was part of her dreams coming true. I mean, when she first got here, she hoped she could be as big as, say, Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston, but she could never have imagined that she would one day become a superstar.
She is an amazing singer, and I witnessed that in working there with the orchestra. And we kept doing takes until we got what we considered was a hit. And we did that with each of 3 songs. She's got an amazing memory and amazing voice. Now, that's when I experienced her voice to its fullest, and I was amazed at the intensity, the passion that she put into her singing, and the meaning that she put into the words, the feeling that she put into these songs. And during a break, I walked up to her and I said, "It's after 2 a.m. How come you're singing so strongly?" She said, "I suspected this afternoon that this was going to happen, so I took a nap."
That's the passion.
When I started to work on this album, I said, you know, it's going to take a while before to be playing on the radio or to be on the charts.
You have to be patient to be in this business because nothing happens overnight that's good, that's going to last. If you get success overnight, it ends overnight. So all the people that the kids see that comes out and sell 1 million copies, that person been working for 5 to 7 years to get that dream happening. So you just have to be patient.
You need to be relentless in your pursuit to become successful. Otherwise, it takes all of that and a lot of luck. And if you're not willing to give up a lot to become successful, in most cases it won't come. And even if it does, it won't last.
I wasn't the immediate success archetype. I was more of the obstacles and difficult type. It took me almost 9 years to get somewhere, to be somehow comfortable with what I do today.
Success doesn't come by someone who gives up on what they're doing. If I had $1 for every turn down that I've had in my life, I'd have a lot of money.
In order to give Celine more visibility, Renee made steps to have her sing film theme songs. Fortunately, Disney offered her When I Fall in Love, which she sang with Peebo Bryson. Next, Robert Redford, who was the producer of the film Up Close and Personal, offered her the song Because You Love Me. Then Lady Luck blessed them with a film called Titanic. The composer went to see Renee and said, I have a song, the theme song for Titanic. Well, they decided to make a demo and took it to the director, James Cameron. He listened to it and was bowled over. So she sang My Heart Will Go On. And that song broke a record at 117 million radio plays in 1 week, which was extraordinary. And that's what made her a superstar. An offer to work in Las Vegas will totally change her life. A Coliseum of 4,000 seats is built especially for her. If you're an artist's manager and someone like Celine bounces into your office, well, it's an amazing gift. But you really have to realize that show business is like a lottery. Or you could say that it was destiny that the Beatles would meet Brian Epstein. Or that Elvis Presley was destined to meet Colonel Parker, and that Renee would meet Celine. But it's not as simple as that.
What they say about genius is it's the infinite capacity to take great pains in the area where your interests lie.
It's giving up a lot of things. It's when everybody else is having a terrific time and having fun and going out, it's working all the time. It's staying on top of your game.
And a genius without their craft is often a simpleton. So Renee was a genius in what he did. Celine was a genius in what she did. Together, he was able to take care of her and protect her. And she probably wouldn't have gotten where she was without him. And he probably, you know, maybe he would have found another, you know, producers, managers, they look for that great artist.
Many times, this is what's lacking, you know, is that good management. Let's be honest, I mean, I've definitely been impressed by René Angelil. He, of course, is, I have to put him at the top of the list because he has the ability to steer his artists in the right direction, be very diplomatic with everyone around him. There are definitely others that are there. I don't want to name any of them because I think I'm going to miss some, but there's not enough. And I think this might be what is lacking in the music industry today, and even then, to have good management.
You know, people often say, oh, it's René Angelil who created Celine Dion. Well, yes, okay, he's her manager, and he's done a marvelous job directing her career because he had much more experience than her, and he's older, etc. But she's always had that determination to conquer the world and become an international star. It's that determination, I think, that is finally what got her where she is today. I mean, you have to have that to do what she does. Doing a big Las Vegas show every day, even to make it in Montreal, you need to be exceptionally disciplined. A lot of people, when they reach that level of notoriety, start to lose their head. But you never hear a word about that with Celine Dion, even that she's had a glass of wine too many. Celine Dion's a woman who walks a straight path and is inspired by the love of her career and her craft. She had absolutely extraordinary passion and talent. It's Celine who has changed Renee. I'm repeating myself, but Celine's determination has also motivated Renee. Because Renee is a guy who needs to be challenged. And if you have the misfortune to challenge him, he's going to try to show you that he can do you one better. So Celine has been so good at what she does that he feels obliged to prove that he can be as good as her, if not better. With time, I've understood it's all about passion. Whether we're talking about the passion of a star or the passion of a manager, it's all passion. René wasn't passionate with our group. He found it with Celine.
Deep in my heart and in my soul is still a 7-year-old little girl who's dreaming of songwriting and dancing in the middle of the music. And so this is constant for me.
I do. I always will have the same passion. It just comes with enthusiasm, with faith. And if you are carried by that faith, you do have the same passion. I don't feel it's a job. I feel it is truly a place in my life where I constantly learn something and evolve.
I've been performing for almost 45 years now, successfully. And I am always working on my craft and working on my show and what I do. So it never ends. If you want to stay on top, it never ends.
They pursue that magical object that makes them live inside They pursue it until the ends of the earth.
If you're willing to sacrifice your life, then you have passion. And Bernard Herrmann, who did all the Hitchcock pictures, who orchestrated and scored all of them, his last picture that he did, Hitchcock was already passed on to heaven, and he did it for Martin Scorsese. He did a picture called Taxi Driver. And he finished the recording date. He was not a young man. He was well into his late 80s. He finished the recording date. His last date, he mixed the record and walked out of the room and died.
That's the passion. Woo!
He said to himself, I am going to finish this picture and then I could die. And that's exactly what happened. It sounds like a sad story, but it's not, because he lived with the thing. Really, passion is doing the thing in life that you love to do as best as you can.
Music is the closest thing to God. Music is the fastest way into the soul. I think when artists are really connected, it's not their voice. It's the voice of the universe, of God, of greatness.
And so you can say that God perhaps creates the star, and the passion in all of us and the passion in the star.
Because you loved me. Life has been good to me, and I'm so lucky too. I got what I want to see, and I love what I do. This stage is my destiny, a plus is mine.